welcome back to the OffsiteDirt Network. We're talking building materials. In particular, we're talking Rmax, that's a division of Sika, with our friend Steve Dubin and contributor at OffsiteDirt Network. Hello, Steve. How's it
Hey,
going?
Audrey.
You doing well?
I'm doing really well. Happy to actually be officially on one of your shows instead of, bystanding and watching and wishing. Here I
Well,
am.
and or contributing, right? You do that
Yeah,
so well as well. So we're always happy to have your voice out there and show us what's happening in the industry.
more to come.
Many people know you because you've been doing an excellent job over the last 24 months of really sharing and talking about the industry. And then, in particular, I think the most brilliant thing you did, and I'd love you to talk a little bit about your journey, is with Rmax and how you really saw this opportunity happening within the company that you created. So, if you can, give us a little detail about your job there and then this brilliant idea about being in offsite construction.
All right. Well, what happened was I was the Western Regional Residential Manager, kind of the vision we were trying to, separate commercial and residential. And we were looking at a downturn in the economy. So I started looking to see if there's any other opportunities that we could kind of shore up our business, diversify a little bit, find some things that could maybe transcend some of the things that we were seeing that weren't looking too positive. And now it's just kind of dinking around online, and I happened to run across a photo on Fading West's social media page, and there was a picture of my competitor's material just leaning against the wall in the background. And I took that as a job lead. And long story short, I ended up meeting their designer and their chief operating officer, and got an invite to their factory, helped make some adjustments to some of their assembly, and now they're one of my biggest and best customers. And within just a couple of months of finding them, they turned into a very, very, dollar figure wise, solid customer. So the president of my division asked me if I had that kind of focus on other things in the modular or offsite world, do you think I could grow the business? Well, hell yeah, I could. Yeah, I just don't have the time, right? So officially on January 1st of last year, so 2024, I have to look at my calendar. I don't know when it is. I started doing this kind of officially and started traveling, seeing people as people have seen in some of my writings. And even on here, I've been to actually, as of now, 67 different factories since I started that day. And honestly, sales is kind of a contact sport. So you got to kind of be in front of people to have these interesting conversations. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you, Audrey. I took the sales figures of the two offsite customers that I would have had prior to this year, took those sales and I increased them by 172% the following year. Most of those coming from either online interactions or in-person interactions that came secondary to the initial introduction online. This year, I'm looking to double those numbers. I'm actually pacing to double that number, and 100% of the business that I've gotten this year has come through using the social media resources and turning it into real world relationships. So
And what is your product, Steve? Because not everybody knows what you're selling at Rmax. What is it?
it's this. Got a
Oh,
couple samples of it. I had them ready for you. It is polyiso cyanide insulation, commonly referred to as either polyiso or iso. It is a rigid insulation, typically used on the exterior. Not always. I got a couple of customers that do it, use it for in different ways, but typically it's on the outside of a building. It is the highest R value per inch of any commonly available rigid insulation in the market, averaging around 6.5 per inch and growing from there. Unlike other insulations that kind of go linear, R4, R8, R12, ours rises faster on R value than the thickness does. So it's more like R6.5, R13.1, R21.4. It grows pretty quick. And a value to the modular world is it doesn't take up that much space to get you those R values that you may or may not be required to get based on whatever the energy code is for where you're either building or ultimately sending the product to, because that could be two different things.
I love that you know that. And I love that you have seen over 60 factories. That in itself is a huge accomplishment in a very short amount of time. And I also love that you were talking with Fading West, because when I started a decade ago, I actually started the same time Charlie did before he
Oh,
had
wow.
three. So love that they invited you. I think those guys are great over there. I have to say, overall, what has been your feeling about meeting the factory owners or the people that are in those plants?
I think there's a sense of appreciation and gratitude that not only do they give me, but I'm able to give it to them too for the time. But I think it's what they're seeing for me is that I'm genuinely invested in their story, kind of their journey. A friend of mine in this industry, he's no longer with us. His name is Jerry McCoy. A lot of people know him. I love Jerry. He told me that if you want to get these people to listen to you and understand you and want to work with you, you have to show them that you're on the same journey. And the only way I can do that is by going to their factory, showing appreciation for what they're doing, and learning that every single one of those 60 plus factories are all different. And they don't need me for the same reasons as the next one does. Oftentimes, building materials manufacturers, I've noticed while doing this, are trying to shoehorn a product that's meant for one particular niche and pretend it's made for the modular niche. And it's simply not. What I want to do is find out, what are you doing? What are your processes? And how can I adjust my processes so that we're both benefiting rather than just me?
That's the difference, right? Caring about people, helping solve a problem. I think that's the bigger area, and collaborating. That is
Okay.
like my name, and that's my word for this year is all about collaboration, and you do it so eloquently. I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I really do feel, Steve, it's funny, we've been in this for a couple of years now, and you and I got to meet at the World of Modular in Orlando 2 years ago. And it was so fun meeting you because I think really at the heart of it, you have such a good soul and you are genuinely there to make people feel comfortable. And that's a gift, right? Not everybody knows how to utilize that ability to make people feel comfortable. You also educate people and not in a direct way, but you also have that data to back it. And I also think that's valuable for people because right now, everybody's running, everybody is doing a million things. We know that modular in itself, modular factories, you're not just running one product or one building, you're running an assembly, right? You're doing a lot of different roles and there's a lot of different pieces and moving parts to that assembly. So I see that you've really entered this market and you've done it really well. I commend you on that and I commend you for all your hard work to visit all those factories because nobody understands not only how hard it is to do that in 1 year, but to find those factories because many of them are not in like a downtown area, right?
I would say most of them. I've done some what I would call road trips where I have to stop and get some weird flavored potato chips that you can only get at a truck stop and drive for 5 hours into the middle of Nebraska to find someone who's been doing it solidly for 40 plus years. And they're not on any directory from, various organizations that we may or may not be members of. Not all of them join those. So that was kind of the first thing I did. I'm like, all right, let's go to the Modular Building Institute or Modular Home Builders Association or this organization, that organization, and kind of go through the list. That I started with that. That was helpful, but there's a lot of people that are just kind of doing it on their own. And sometimes they're doing it really well and quietly and have been for a long time. They're not posting or bragging about something that they're doing or saying they're going to do. They're just doing it. Stratford Building Corporation, that's one I can think of. They've been around for 50 plus years, and their youngest, there's two factories. The younger of the two has been around for over 30, and they're not members of organizations. They're not bragging about it online. In fact, I think when they do brag about it online, it's reposting when I bragged about it online
Right, right.
because I love what they're doing.
Not everybody is into social media and explaining and getting their brand out there, right? And that's okay. We'd love to see more of it because actually, those are the stories that we need to hear. We're in a growing and evolving industry. It is starting to blossom. We know we're at the I feel like we're at the bottom of the mountain, right? We're taking one step at a time to try to get there. But from your perspective, before we close, Steve, what I would love to know is what motivated you in order for you to start meeting those factories? And then, two, do you have any good advice for anybody else that's in the industry wanting to get into modular construction?
Hmm. The motivation was honestly, it was different and interesting. And, I've been doing building materials in the traditional construction world for years. Um, and, um, and it's a lot of diaper changing and putting out fires over commodities. And it just kind of drags on and it gets a little bit annoying and it's constantly conversations about how can I do the same thing cheaper or how can I meet this code without doing anything any different? And it's just aggravating. From a offsite construction standpoint, they're purposely looking for better ways to do things because they have to. That's how they are going to be profitable. That's how they're going to, scale up. That's how they are going to solve whatever crisis they're trying to solve: affordable housing, attainable housing, whatever it is. And they're trying to do things interesting and different. And if uh, if I'm described with adjectives as anything, interesting and different are definitely two for me.
You definitely hit those.
So
You definitely hit those. So what would you say, what is your greatest piece of advice for those that maybe have a building supply material or wanting to get in the industry? What's your number one piece of advice?
I'm glad you asked that because it's funny. I've had to give some advice a couple of times because some people that I'm now friends with that are interested in the modular world have reached out to me over the last year after seeing what I've done, whether it's online or with articles and things like that, and asked, "How did you do it?" And I'm like, Nike had it right. Just do it. Go feet first. Don't be afraid to go in it. Be aggressive about it. Be consistent. Don't be annoying about it, but be consistent. Follow up, follow through. I say that with any sales rep. The best thing you can do is just follow up, respond in a decent amount of time. But and learn from people. We're given two ears and one mouth for a reason, so that we can listen twice as much as we talk. Get into those factories and listen. Go online, read about it, learn about it, and use those tools as a way to find what the value proposition for your product is to modular business or offsite business. Because the value prop is not what you or your company thinks it is. And sometimes when we're at a national sales meeting, they try to teach us our value prop is this. You might be selling to someone that value proposition means nothing to them. Find out why they care and do something for them.
Oh my gosh, that is so great. Find out why they care and do something great. That is exactly what you do every day. Thank you so much for being here, Steve.
Thanks, Audrey.
It's
I
so nice.
appreciate you.
Absolutely, likewise. And that's the dirt on Offsite Dirt. Join us again, look for us, like us, and share. We're here to explore and expand the industry. Thanks again.